Hey guys, what's going on? This is Josh from Spotted Euros, and behind me we have my 2009 Touareg, Volkswagen Touareg TDI. So in this video we're going to change out this passenger side regulator. So as you can hear, there's a cable inside the door. If you hear kind of a cable, something going, basically that means the motor's working, the switch is working, but the cable itself has come off the runners, the rollers, whatever it might be, and that needs to get replaced. Okay, so if you're interested in more Touareg content, feel free to check out some of our other videos. This is definitely something we've made plenty of videos on, this TDI, towing videos, repair videos, all that kind of stuff. You can see when we first picked this car up, all the problems. We switched out the head unit, all that kind of stuff. So if you want more Touareg content, hit subscribe and check out the other videos. You got to take off this door panel to get to the regulator itself. So this is fairly easy. You have to pop off this, which reveals, I believe, a screw here, maybe two, and then there are two screws here at the bottom. Okay, so you want to take this out. You come here to the bottom, either with a finger or a screwdriver or something. And there you go. So you have three clips here. So as you can see, 1, 2, 3. And the associated clips here. You don't really want to try and, once this first one comes out, you want to kind of move up, because you don't really want this to flex too much, otherwise you risk breaking this piece right here. Torx bits. A lot of Volkswagens here uses Torx bits, and this size here is a 30 T30. As you can see, there are two of them. So break them loose. Okay, these here at the bottom are actually T20. So there's two of them, as you can see here, 1, 2 speakers here, so kind of in the back side of the door. So you can use a screwdriver and try and get under. Sometimes you can find enough of a gap to just try and go and just work your way around. Three cables. We got this cable here, which is for the door latch. This is for the speaker. And then farther down, there's a cable for the window regulator itself. I'll show you all the cables after we get this off. Okay, so here are the three. This is the cable up top. It latches in right here at the door. So the ball kind of slides in here. You just kind of have to get the wire, the cable out, and then it clips in here as well. This clip here, you just have to lift up this end, and then it will come off. Here's the other end of that. And then you have the main switch cable that plugs into the motor itself right here. That just pulls out. Okay, so this is where the Touareg gets a lot tougher than some other cars. A lot of times you just kind of unscrew this and the door frame itself will all come out as one piece. The Touareg does a similar thing, however you actually have to take off this inner skin here. Now, when I first was doing the first time, I had a hard time because there wasn't a lot of information on this. The videos weren't very good, so hopefully I can put together something that's a little more useful. What you have here, so there's a couple of things you have to undo. So you have to undo all of these black screws here, and I believe they're all T30s. No, they're oh yeah. So they're all T30s. You just take them all off. They line the whole perimeter. And then, if you're doing this the first time, there's actually a bunch of rivets. So you can see these are holes for me. Rivet, rivet there. And I believe that's it. So, and then these as well. So unfortunately, for some reason, the Touareg, they riveted this to the door itself. Now some people, so basically what you have to do, you have to drill out all these rivets to get the door off itself. It's not very hard. You just drill them out just like you would drill out any rivet. Some of them you have to be careful. See, these I was able to get out a lot cleaner than other ones. But basically you have to undo all of that. That way the door skin itself will come free. Now once you're able to do that, the last thing you do are the screws for the motor itself. Okay guys, so here we go. This is the next step. So everything is taken off. In our case, all the rivets were already done, and we took out all of the black screws, 30 T30s, and then the motor itself. There are 3 T30s. Now, unfortunately for me, the cable got wrapped around here, and then I bet because recently when this wasn't going up, I was kind of in the middle of driving. I was messing with it, trying to get it to roll up at least, and it looks like it wrapped around. It wrapped around this, so the gear itself is all stripped out. That is almost completely smooth. But anyway, so I'm probably going to have to get another one of these motors, unfortunately. But for those who are fans, we've got plenty of Touaregs around here, so I'm sure I can get one off of another Touareg I've got. So now the next step is actually to take off all this cabling. So you have to undo this stuff in order to take this off. Now what is holding the skin on right now is actually the weather stripping. Okay, so as you can see, everything is undone. It's not too bad, but like I said, you just have to be able to push all this stuff through. There's two connectors. So there's the connector that goes into the speaker, which is this one. You just push in the two sides, and then there's a connector that goes up to the mirror itself, and that's just right here. This also pops out. Anyway, so at this point you undo the weather stripping and then just take the door skin off. So now at this point, once you have the skin off, you're going to take off this whole door frame. If you're doing this for the first time, it seems kind of crazy, but it really just lifts out at this point. You don't have to take off any of these screws, the locking mechanism. All you're taking off are 4 bolts. They're T40. So there's there. You have to take the covers off. There's a plastic cover here, and then there are 2 more here on the inside. These screws here are actually T45. There we go. Here's what the screws look like. They're these big, like I said, T40 screws. There's 4 of them. Now, one of the things that you don't need to worry about is when I first took this off, I was afraid that if the screw fell from the top that it would just fall into who knows where, but this actually does end. So this top screw is just sitting there at the bottom of this. I'll have to fish that out once we get the door off. Now, at this point, you are ready to take the door off. This will just lift out, and just be careful with it. Kind of goes without saying, but just lift it carefully. And what you want to do is have a spot where you're going to place this. Now, this is going to be the top of the door, so it's nothing that, you know, basically you got the mirror. You don't want to damage anything, so if you're putting it on concrete, that's going to be a problem. Lay down some towels or put a place where you can put the window itself, because you're going to be working down here. So as you can see, this is definitely failed. So here is the window itself. As you can see, we definitely have a regulator issue. All the cable, it all has come off. Basically what happened is the cable stopped going around the wheel. We even have, it looks like a piece of the wheel broke. And yeah, so it starts wrapping up like that. Super common, but definitely annoying. So what you want to do is you've taken off these two screws. The window itself will slide out. Then you'll have access to everything. And then at that point, I'll meet up with you guys and we'll talk about the next step. Okay, so you undo these two. They shouldn't be that tight. You don't want them to be too tight, or you could potentially break the glass. Now all you do is pull the glass down. As you can see, it's a little harder with two hands, but you pull the glass down, and then once there's enough play or enough room, you pop it out of here, and the glass itself will just come out. Definitely, once again, be careful with the glass. You do not want to break this and have to pay to replace that as well. Here we go, the glass is out. I just set it right here. And if we're looking at our window regulator, you can see this failed basically here in the middle where it came off the wheel and started wrapping around, but then also here at the top. Now, I was probably messing with this a little too much, but it's supposed to be around that wheel. Now here is where the Touareg, it's a little frustrating that the Touareg, how the Touareg does this. So basically what you have here is the cable itself goes around and the guides are actually riveted in. So instead of having screws, there are 4 rivets. Now once again, if you're okay with drilling these out and putting a new rivet in, then you can probably do that. Now, although that's not really hard, and probably I should just figure it out, I don't have a rivet gun, and I've never done rivets really, so instead of doing that, I actually just opted to take off these cables. So what you do is you just flip these back, and then there are ends here. You undo this, you undo the wheels, it slips off here at the top, and you basically just take everything off. Okay guys, so we have this mostly on. This is the new cable regulator, as you can see here. And then here are the guides that came on that window regulator. So a couple of things that you really want to, basically you don't want to have to redo all of this. You want this all to stay in place so that you do not, I repeat, do not have to wrap this around and try and figure all that out. So it was a lot easier for me this time to kind of figure this out. But basically what you want to do is you take the cable, and sorry I didn't, it's a little too hard to film and everything at the same time. So what you want to do is you actually want to take the cables off of one side, one guide, and put the cables on the other side. So you leave, basically you've got the cables on one side, you just leave that there, and you transfer. I kind of just transferred wheel to wheel. So I took it off of this wheel, the cable off of this wheel, and I placed the cable here. I did it on the top. Then once it was pretty set here, then I did it on the other side. You want to have enough tension on here so that it doesn't mess up the cable. These are the springs that kind of give you an idea of the tension. So right now there's just a little bit of a tension on here, and that's basically because this one roller is not on. Now these are designed, basically this is how you get this cable on. Is you're using this roller here. So as you can see, there is a groove here. So what you're going to want to do, and it will be tight, that's kind of the idea, is you initially get the cable to be on this you initially get the cable on this side here. So as you can see here, so we'll move this and get it here. That's pretty easy to do. And then what you do is you just rotate this. So as you can see, we got a little bit of a rotary here. We got a little bit of a rotary shape here, and that's simply because once the cable is here, you spin this around, and then naturally it places the cable in place. So that is the tip. Get everything on the other kind of rollers here, and then focus on the one. Let me see if I can set up the camera so you guys can kind of watch as I do this. Okay, so you're using those springs, so you might have to kind of, if you pull this down, if you pull this piece down, it will give you a little bit more, and then we're just getting it right there. So you can see this here. When you move this, the whole thing is obviously rotating. So you just push this up, and there you go. Okay, we have the window back in. It's not too hard to do. You just kind of have to be patient with it. And one of the things you need to make sure of is that it's aligned. So there's a little bit of a play here. As you can see, these little tabs can move around, and that's kind of what controls the alignment of the window. So you just want to make sure that's aligned correctly. I think the best way to do that is actually to have the window all the way up, so that it's completely, secure all the way around. As long as that's all straight and right, then they should be somewhere, kind of in the middle, and then you can tighten down the two screws. Okay, so we placed the window back in. It's really not too bad, like I said. Just focus on these pins here at the top. And then also this, it's what's lining up. So as I was saying before, this can move back and forth. So the weight of it is keeping it down. So I think the next step is put in this T40. So like you remember, these big silver ones with the T40, you put them all in. Once again, 4 of them. Everything bolted back in. One of the things you definitely want to be careful of is there is a little bit of adjustment on these bottom screws. So what you can do is take a look at the inside here and try and match it up where the last time that it was taken off. So the washer on the bolt will kind of leave an impression. So just try and get that to be in the same spot. These screws here are actually T45. I was using a T40 to get everything out. It's not much of a difference, but I found getting this one in here at the bottom was pretty hard, so you had to use the T45 so that the screw would kind of stay on the bit. That way you could kind of guide it in and get it into the hole in there. So, and then obviously when you're tightening stuff down, it's better to use kind of the proper size. This fits exactly in, so T45 is actually the size that you want. Okay, so now at this point we're gonna put the skin back on. Halfway through the process here, I would say the trickiest part to this, and I'm not even done, is getting this to actually line up and go in and stay in enough to where you can screw in the motor. So like I said, luckily I've got another Touareg here that is kind of down for a little bit. If you haven't seen that video, check it out. Basically we got a $1,800 Touareg that is in really good shape except for the engine. But anyway, I went out and grabbed this. As you can see, it's the same. That zip tie, so the zip tie is still on. I have to cut this, the zip tie at this point. You could cut it before. You just got to be careful, because the moment you cut that zip tie, there's nothing really keeping the wire, the cable in place, and it can kind of move around. Once it's screwed down like this with everything, then it's kind of tightened down and it won't move around. So I think, like I said, I'm gonna try and put this on next. If I can just at least get the screws somewhat tight, then we can go around and mess with the rest of it. Everything is pretty much back together as far as the door skin. All I need to do is tighten down all of the black screws all the way around. But once you get everything in, you kind of pull all the wires through. Here, if it helps, is the plugs. Tan one is right here. This plug is open because that's the one on the door card. Tan, and then they're only going to go in one way. And then I kind of zip tied things into place so they're not really moving around. Yeah, it's not too bad. Just don't forget to plug in the speaker here, and then this connector, the wire comes down from the mirror, as you can see there. That plugs in mirror, and there will be this cable that plugs into the door card, and then, like I said, the connector, and then this here for the latch. Okay, door card's back on. You just slide in the top ridge first. Once that is down, you just pop them in all the way around. At this point, it probably would be best to make sure the window is working. Everything's plugged in on the back side. So let's see. Turn on the ignition. Moment of truth. Okay, and it's all back together. Everything's looks like it did. Now I should mention, if you really wanted to, you can re-rivet the door skin at the top. It's kind of up to you. I was nervous initially when I did it the first time that it would rattle around because it wasn't riveted down. But honestly, I haven't noticed anything, and I'm pretty sensitive to rattles and noises like that. So I haven't experienced anything, so I wouldn't worry about it unless you really want to. Okay guys, so there you have it. Back together. Really not too bad. It's definitely a little bit more involved than say some other cars that I've replaced window regulators in other cars, and it's usually not that big of a deal, whereas in the Touareg it is. So let me know if this was helpful. Like I said, part of the reason I did this is because when I was doing this the first time, there's hardly anything out there, and the videos that are out there really aren't that great. So hopefully I can put together something that's a lot more easy. It's a lot easier to watch, to figure out, and anyway, check out our other videos. If this was helpful, do me a favor, hit subscribe. It makes a big difference for me. And otherwise, thanks guys. Thanks for watching.